Perfect. Well, without further ado, we will now hear from Jamie.
Hi.
Jamie, was you were previously working at EY in their social enterprise accelerator,
Oh,
but
still
now you've
still do.
decided to go off on your own.
About to transition out.
Yeah,
I will for next month and a bit. Yeah.
yeah, perfect. So yeah, Jamie, over to you.
Thanks very much. So I thought today, this evening, I would chat a bit more about a specific area of business which I'm particularly passionate about, which is using business as a force for good. So I'm going to chat a little bit about what got me to this position, what I've done recently in my role with EY and EY Foundation, and then also a little bit about my own social enterprise and what the ethos is behind that, and then some of the journey that I went through to get to that point. As Sarah just mentioned, I have recently just kind of handed in my notice, so I'm going to be going full time on Social Supermarket, which I'm incredibly excited about. And I guess I can talk a little bit about how I continued to build up Social Supermarket for the last year and a half while maintaining full-time professional job elsewhere as well, along my two co-founders. So a bit kind of about where I came from. These are just a few of the organizations I've worked in. Actually, in my last 3 years, I spent less than a year in each of the organizations, including EY Foundation, something called Natural Capital Partners, and previously before that, I was at something called Business in the Community. So I guess my main role was in an organisation, actually charity, called Business in the Community, and my role there was essentially to advise companies on how to implement responsible business practices into their day-to-day operations. So I would advise any companies from kind of big construction organisations like Skanska about how they can use responsible material in their production, through to fast growth organizations like Uber and Airbnb, who've gone through tremendous growth, but also need to be considerate, I guess, of the impact that their platforms had in society. So that's kind of where my kind of entry point into responsible business space started. And it's also where I kind of became increasingly aware of this consumer demand for responsible driven products. And something later I discovered, which was this gap between what was being provided in the market and what the consumer demand was. So my next job afterwards actually was in carbon offsetting. So this is a brief stint where I supported organizations offset their carbon footprint by working with a variety of different carbon offset projects. And I guess this was also a really interesting period for me because it was talking more about how companies can really consider their environmental impact in their procurement and business making decisions. You'll have seen big companies like Microsoft have pledged to offset and go carbon neutral from the day that they were actually founded. So these are millions and millions of tons of carbon. Projects I'll be investing in are anything from kind of planting trees to supporting wind farms and multiple developments like that. But these are huge investments by companies spending millions and millions of pounds on something which isn't necessarily directly related to the bottom line, but they see as business critical because it's important for their clients and customers. And then my penultimate role was with EY Foundation. So in the UK, I worked with a range of different organizations, startup social enterprises, who were at a kind of very early stage of growth. And this ranged anything from actually James, so this is how I met James, a Generation Success, through to responsible clothing manufacturers, through to Rice, which was kind of fair trade. And this was basically using the power of EY as a huge organization to support 45 social enterprises across the country. And this gave me a fantastic insight, I guess, into A, the level of support that's available for social enterprises out there, and B, what makes successful social enterprises and what makes a successful entrepreneur. And a lot of the similar points in terms of talking about kind of resilience, having a very kind of clear focus on what they wanted to drive. But this was kind of a bit my gateway into the world of social enterprise. And just in terms of the market of what social enterprise represents, so social enterprises are basically businesses that use their profits for good. So that's either employing people from disadvantaged communities, like homeless people, through to using products or services which would otherwise go to waste. And it's a huge growing sector. So these purpose-driven organisations represent 100,000 in the UK at least, and that's 60 billion in terms of UK economy. Um, so that it employs more than 2 million people in the UK. So it's a really kind of hidden number of organizations. I think that a lot of people aren't aware of the size and scale. So I guess talking a little bit more about my own social enterprise and what really kind of got me interested into entrepreneurship. I set up about a year and a half ago, and it was with two co-founders who are both new from university. And the problem that we looked at in this space was that consumers care. Consumers want to know, I guess, the environmental and social impacts of the products that they buy. But although you're kind of seeing different pockets of this in some areas, you're seeing even bigger retailers, including lots of sustainability principles. People are often concerned about greenwashing. So the fact that people say a product is green or it is responsible, yet actually further down the supply chain, it's not really doing what it claims to do on the tin. Secondly, price and quality come first, and social impact shouldn't be a compromise to the quality of a product. Often, what we saw in the market was that there's quite a few different sustainable and ethical brands, but talk primarily about the impact of their brand. And although people are likely to buy maybe once or twice, in terms of making it a consistent product that they buy from, it didn't have that kind of key feature and selling with basically what product offered the consumer rather than what the consumer could offer the product by kind of buying or supporting that brand. And then our final problem that we identified was that finding impact brands is hard. Often people know, one or two brands that have got good reputations, but actually listing more than one or two is a real challenge. And there's a lack of available options. But as seen in the previous slide, there are hundreds of thousands of organizations that fit this bracket in the UK. So we set up a platform which is basically an e-commerce platform for a range of different social enterprise products. And this was anything from tea that employed refugees to fair trade coffee to reusable water bottles. So we have now got about 65 social enterprise suppliers. That includes 450 products across a range of fashion, food and drink, furniture, and essentially we've got the vision of growing this marketplace. So we're the first place that people look to find and buy from responsible driven brands. We've also got very diverse led suppliers. So 41% of social enterprises are currently led by women. We actually have over 50% of suppliers who are featured on our platform are female-led businesses. And this is compared to 20% of SMEs. So one of the kind of key things that we are really attracted to about social enterprises is also kind of a diversity of founders as well. So these are just a few of the examples of some of the products we feature. This is Elvis and Cressy. They make handbags, bags, wallets made from fire hose. So I don't know if you know this, but all fire hose previously just went to landfill. And it was a brand set up by Cressy Wesling and her partner that basically said this is an absolute travesty. This is a product which is beautiful. It can be repurposed and turned into something which is really incredible and quite high end and luxury. So they now take all the fire hose in London and now actually the UK and turn it into real luxury products. They've now partnered with Burberry and they sell these bags for up to £400-500. And then they also donate 50% of their profits to fire service charities. So there's a real great impact that they drive through this product. Secondly, this is a brand called Harry Specter's. It was set up by two parents called Mona and Shaz, and their son had autism. And for those who don't know, the unemployment rate in the UK for people with autism is about 85 to 90%. And they were really concerned about what the future looked like for their son. But during one kind of family holiday, they did a chocolate making class and they realized that their son really enjoyed the process of making chocolates. So they created this brand called Harry Specter's Chocolates about 10 years ago. And they've gone from strength to strength. They've just recently opened their own chocolate shop in Cambridge. And the idea is it basically creates a sustainable level of employment for people with autism. And it's in terms of a process as well, it kind of supports, is an incredibly supportive environment. and the chocolates are absolutely delicious as well. So really kind of emphasizing the point that this is a great quality product, but also a really strong social cause behind it. And finally, Madlug. So Madlug is a backpack company set up by someone called Dave. And Dave was a care worker, and he was shocked to discover that a number of kids, rather than taking their belongings in backpacks, if they were in poverty or in care, they often carried around their belongings in bin bags. And he thought this was a really degrading experience for a lot of kids. So he set up a bag company that every time you buy one, it gives to a kid in care. And these backpacks have exploded. I went to Scotland recently, and the first time I got off a bus, I saw one of these backpacks. They've got a reasonably low price point, so only kind of £30, but they also have this really strong social purpose and mission to them. So I've talked a little bit about, I guess, my career trajectory, but also what the kind of key things I think really make strong social entrepreneurs. And also what I find really enjoyable about working with social entrepreneurs is this real mixture between that drive for social purpose, but also that element about doing good. And just to re-emphasize, I guess, some of the lessons I've learned during this process is the importance of resilience. So the ability to keep going even when times are tough, focusing on the small stuff. One of the kind of key phrases I really like in this space is it's all about it's 1% ideation, 99% execution. So it's great having a good idea, but actually being able to execute it is the key thing. And the final point is the ability to be dynamic and pivot your organization depending on the results you see. So, as we previously discussed, that real element of asking your consumer questions, getting feedback, and then creating new products and services on the back of that. But I will now open up for questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions, pop them into the chat and Jamie will answer them.
So, in terms of corporate responsibility applying to a new startup, absolutely. I mean, um, I think one of the kind of real important things when companies think about a CSR policy is to consider how they can make it relevant to their business. So you mentioned you've got a digital marketing agency. I know for a fact lots of organizations, such as social enterprises and lots of charities really struggle to understand how they promote their business. So maybe something to consider would be giving a day a week to organizations who needed a bit of support with their digital marketing. So although you're a small business, it's never too early to start thinking about actually how you can use your time for good. So maybe consider, is there a time during the year when you tend to have a slightly slower period? And then how could you give your employees maybe a day to or day or half a day or make it quite dynamic to apply with a social entrepreneur. So, so any of the products and happy to connect you with a number of our suppliers, but also charities who might be wanting to reach and grow their customer base through that. And what's great about that is that I presume through digital marketing as well, is that you can probably define and measure the kind of impact that you have. So I think what I'd really encourage you to do was rather than think about this broad range of different items you can, but how do you use your business and how do you use your specific business skills to support social entrepreneurs or charities rather than maybe, I don't know, going out and digging up a tree or, or planting a tree, which is often the kind of go-to method for some companies. Hopefully that helps, Kamara.
Perfect. Anyone else?